Hi, it's Angel Hawks. I wanted to come on here and tell you a little bit more about the Essentials of the English Language, which is a program from Classical Conversations, and it is geared towards fourth grade through sixth grade, basically 9 through 12. And it is a grammar, writing, English skills based program. So I have all the materials. I wanted to kind of walk you through and show you what it's like and how you use the materials. And this is great for anyone who's maybe thinking about classical conversations that has a child in that age range. Or maybe you have a child already in classical conversations that's in foundations currently and is looking towards going to essentials and wants to know a little bit of what to expect and what it's like. So the materials are abundant, I'll say. There's a lot to it, and very complete, very good program. I feel like it's very rigorous, but it's kind of dissected into a lot of pieces because you're going to use this one day, you're going to use this piece here and that piece there, and it can be a little overwhelming and confusing for someone coming in new. And after a year of doing this with a middle of the road age child, so I have a fifth grader, so he's right in the middle. He should, if we had started when he was in fourth grade, this would be his second year. But because this was his first year, he's a first year, but in that middle row, he won't get 3 years of this, he'll only get 2 years. But after a year, I've figured out the plan. I know some resources that really help with it, and I wanted to share that with you, and hopefully that will be helpful for you. So if you're interested in hearing more about the Classical Conversations Essentials program, please stick around and we'll do a walkthrough of the curriculum. Okay, so here we have the EEL, or Essentials of the English Language curriculum from Classical Conversations. Now, there's multiple portions of this, and we're going to focus on the EEL portion of this, which is the grammar curriculum. The other portion of this program is using IAW for writing. So right now we're just going to look at the EEL, and it comes unbound and ring punched in packets that you will then transfer to your own binder. And it has tabs already for all of your weeks for 24 weeks. I've only got 14 through 24 in here, and the ones from the beginning of the material and the ones from the end of the material. So I've got, after 24, I've got some other supplement pieces. So I do take out some of the weeks as we go throughout the year to limit on the bulk. So I have those in another binder. That way I only carry about half the year at a time with me. That's part of the problem of this abundant curriculum, that you kind of have to break it into chunks to make it more manageable, because in addition to the EEL, we have the student pages, and these are worksheets and editing work, and what else? Analytical task sheets, which are for diagramming. Then you have a solutions manual, and this is like your teacher's guide. It has charts. It has the answers to your editing exercises. It has the answers to all of your analytical task sheets where you diagram. So I break this down into manageable chunks by removing only the weeks that I need, or leaving in only the weeks that I need in the EEL. I go ahead and bring the student worksheets with me. And actually, I could take this out and leave them at home because we only use them at home. In the beginning, I just left them in here because I didn't know what we would need and I wasn't sure how this program worked. Now I do. I would recommend you just leave this at home in a little folder or notebook. The solutions is helpful to have with you. So this is like your teacher's manual, the solutions pages. It has all the answers to all of the activities that they do. So let's talk about how this works. When you're in class, when you go to community and you're in essentials class, you will need your EEL pages for the week that you're on, as well as like the beginning of the booklet, which is your contents, your introduction pages, your scope and sequence, overview, because you might need that, and then whatever week you're on. So you don't have to take all the weeks with you, or even half the year. You just need the one that you're working on that week. So if you want to swap them out every week, feel free. But this is where you start. You can, if you're doing this on your own or if you're doing this at home, this is your instructions for what you're teaching this during the week. So this page is an overview, real quick overview of all the different things you're going to cover this week. Sentence structure, sentence purpose, sentence pattern, parts of speech, grammar charts, which we'll cover that in a minute, punctuation rule, spelling rule, and your spelling words. Now, I'm looking at week 13, which is the beginning of the second semester. So this is not, this is going to be a little complex for you. So I'm going to grab week 1 and walk through a much more simplified, because in the beginning, you're going to start off very simply, and it is going to grow in complexity over the weeks. So let me get week 1 and come right back. Okay, here's week 1. So you start out just talking about sentences. We're going to start very basic. You're going to learn what sentence structure is, what a purpose of a sentence is, and what a pattern of a sentence is. As you go along, you'll get into what are the different structures, what are the different purposes, what are the different patterns. But right now, you're just learning what does that mean, right? What is a part of speech? They list 2 charts. This is grammar mastery charts A and B, and I'll show you those. And then you have weekly sentences, you have capitalization rule, and spelling words. This is basically what you're going to do for the whole week. So this is a cheat sheet or a quick guide for mom to look and make sure that they're covering all of these things during the week. Now, this is the actual instruction. So they go over what is a structure, what the different structures are, what a purpose is, what the different purposes are, and then they introduce our first chart. So here is a picture of chart A, and in your solutions manual, you have the actual charts. Now what you can do, let me switch over so that I can show you the chart. I'm going to flip to my solutions manual in the back of here. And here is the chart. Now, this is it completely filled out. And as a supplement, you can buy laminated versions of the charts. And they call those a trivia. So I'm going to open this little case that we keep ours in. And this is an optional thing. It's the same thing that's in your solutions manual, but they are laminated, and it combines multiple charts into a fold out, what they call trivia table. So it has chart A, it has chart B, chart M, chart G, P. On the back we have H, and we have blanks of H and A. Okay, now what like I said, it's completely a supplement if you want to use this. What a lot of people do to save money, if you have a laminator, you could take this chart and put it, laminate it, and just use that. What you really want to do is, in your student pages, you have blank ones. So here is A with blanks, and you can see on here, this is the filled in one with all the answers, and this one's blank. So what you want to do is laminate the blank one and let them write on it, and then you wipe it off and you try again. So what the concept of this is in the beginning, in the first couple of weeks, you're just going to be studying this. So you're going to review this with your child. You're going to read what they are. You're going to get familiar with the structures, the 4 structures, the 4 purposes, the 8 parts of speech, the 5 parts of a sentence. We have 7 patterns of sentences. Now, you're going to be working on this chart for a long period of time throughout the year, especially if this is your first year in Essentials. You're not expected to know this whole thing. You're going to learn throughout the year what these are and what these are and what these are. These come towards the end of the semester, and they're worked on week by week. So towards the end of the year, you're going to get down to all of them. However, memorizing them all, it's probably going to be year 2 or year 3 before you have the whole thing memorized. Unless you have an excelling child, then they might memorize this right away. But the purpose of this is to get familiar with all the information and be able to transfer. Basically, if they start to memorize this, you'll start to have your child fill in the answers. What are the 4 structures? What are the 4 purposes? And, in the first few weeks of school, that may be all they can do, right? But after a while, they'll be able to fill this in. They'll be able to fill this in as they go throughout the year. They'll be able to fill this in from memory. So that's the concept, and that is the objective throughout the year, is to be able to commit all of this to memory, to be able to fill this out completely from memory towards the end. But it may be year 3 before they can do that. It just depends on the child. It's not something that they have to do right out the gate, or they have to master right out the gate. They're just learning it. So I prefer to buy these because this is a compact way to transport it to class, but we also use it at home. Here's his completed one, and here's the empty one. It's laminated. They can write on it with a erase marker, either dry erase or what we use is a wet erase. And that is because my son is a lefty, and he would, smudge the ink as he's writing because he's going from left to right with his left hand, and it would smear the ink off. So we use wet erase. You can see some here that we haven't erased, so it does not smudge unless you get it wet. So we just use baby wipes and wipe it down. So not all of the charts are going to be this purpose where you learn and memorize and then fill in the blanks. Some of the charts, like B here, is just to look at. The child's not expected to be able to fill in all these answers, but they're familiar with the information. It's laid out in a nice, succinct way to get familiar with. This is simple structure of sentences. So if we go back to our structures, we're starting at square one, right in the beginning. We're only learning about simple sentences, and we're going to learn about different purposes. So if we look at B, this is all about simple structure. You can read that. Let me move it over a little bit. All about simple structure of sentences. And here we have different purposes and different patterns and an example sentence. So these are the purposes: declarative, exclamatory, interrogative, imperative. And then it gives you examples for each pattern. So they may not get all of this information right away, but we're going to start from here. We're going to add more, we're going to add more, we're going to add more. But it's all on one page to make it concise. And you'll refer to this throughout the year. I hope that makes sense. So this is where you start. And if we go back to our beginning pages where it says what you're going to do this week, you're going to work on A and B. So during the week, you may give your child these this fold out and say, just copy the words from here to here. And just do these and do these, you know. And then later you may fold it back and you say, okay, you know what they are now. Fill them in. Let me see you fill them in. And then as you go on, they can fill in more and more as you go throughout the year. You get the idea. Here we have C for verbs. I have a laminated version of it here. This is what it looks like filled out. This is what it looks like blank. Here's a blank one. Do the same thing. In the beginning, they're learning a definition, and they're learning what these top types are, types of verbs, but they may not know what they mean in the beginning. So in the beginning, they may just write the definition and what those types are. And then as they get through the program, they may be learning the definitions, and you may have them fill this out and write the definitions in. So you get the concept of how we use the charts. But let me show you why I say it's a little confusing in the layout of all of this, because the completed chart is in your solutions manual back here, right? It shows you all the answers. The blank is up here in your student section. Whereas if you get this, it's right there together. You see? It's just, it's not that it's hard, it's just they're in different places, and you have 3 different manuals, if you will, to deal with in this material, and so you're constantly pulling things from different places. So I prefer to use the laminated ones because they're all in one place. I don't have to go dig. But if you don't want to spend the money on those, they are in here. You just need to know that the empty ones are in the student and the completed ones are in the essentials guide. Okay, so that's how charts work. So like I said, for week 1, you're only going to concentrate on A and B, and not all of that as it is. So you can see right here, they're calling your attention to just this section of B because we're just starting very simply. Then you have your spelling list, and they have this broken down into 3 levels. So if you have a 9-year-old, you're going to work on spelling list A. That whole year, every week, you're going to look at spelling list A. If you have a 10-year-old or a 5th grader, you're going to be working on level B. So even though this was our first year, and they call these tours, so if this is your first time in essentials, you would start here. Your 2nd year, you'd go here. Your 3rd year here. But if you're starting like I did in year 2, because he's already 10 when he started this, we started him here because this was too easy. He already knew those. So You pick your level, and those are the words and homophones that you practice for the week. They do have in the solutions manual, let me go back to that, in the back, no, I lied, it's in the students section. You see how kind of confusing this is? It's in the students section. There are spelling practice sheet and spelling test sheets. Well, I guess they're all spelling practice. Yeah. That you can copy and make copies of and do your rule and do your spelling words. And so every day they can write the rule, and then on the last day you can quiz them and, have a spelling test. However, there's nothing in here that specifically tells you to go and do that, right? It's like they give you all the tools, but they don't say, here's a recommended day and this is how you do your day. It's really up to you on how to structure it and what you need to get done. Just know that this is your map for the week, and how you do that is up to you. So in your class and community, of course, they will go over it and give you the basics of this information. However, they only have 45 minutes, so they don't cover spelling rules, punctuation rules, homophones. They don't cover any of that in EEL. They just have time to really cover the charts and the analytical tasks. Let me show you what that is. So on here you have sentence structure, definition, and then you have analytical tasks 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's go to that and see what that is. Here's a blank that I made a copy of and laminated. You can also get one of these triviums that is all about analytical tasks. Highly recommend this as well, because it is that sheet all expanded and with lots of room. It also has examples of all the parts, and then even more. So that's like this sheet on steroids, pretty much. So highly recommend you get this because it's all in one place. You can write on it, wipe it off. That was a great tool for us. However, they do have blank sheets. You can use them in your student manual. What they are, they have instructions on what they are and how to use them. It's kind of a lot of information. But let me walk you through simply on here. Once again, we're going to start the year by being very first pass, and then you're going to learn as you go through. So let me go to the blank form. It says start here, and it has dictate sentence. Hopefully you can see. Let me see if I can zoom in. I apologize for the glare. There we go. I'll fix that. Okay, and there's this green line. That is for them to write the sentence on. Now, where do you get the sentence? I'll show you that in a minute. But you're going to basically have a sentence every day. If you do like a 4-day week, every day for them to write and diagram. They're going to be really simple in the beginning, and they're going to get harder throughout the year. So they write the sentence, and then they have questions on here. So you're going to check the mechanics. So does it have a subject? Does it have a predicate? Has the beginning? Does it have a capital letter? So here you're basically grading them on the ability of writing the sentence that you've dictated to them. Okay? Now we're going to break down the sentence and get ready to diagram it. So first, we're going to identify independent subordinate clauses. Oop, there you go. Now, day 1, week 1, they're not going to know what those are. So in the very beginning, first few weeks, all they're going to do is this and this. And then as the course goes on and they learn some of these concepts, we're going to add that to it. And so each week they may be going here, they may be going here, the next week they may go here, that kind of thing. So it adds a piece at a time. Although you do have this whole thing all at once on the sheet, you don't have to be overwhelmed with it, because in the beginning you're just going to do a couple pieces. And your teacher will show you, or your tutor will show you that in your class, in community. If you're not in community, then this can be kind of overwhelming because you think you have to do it all. Here's where we diagram, or we break down and identify parts of the sentence. We're going to identify the patterns and the purposes. We're going to identify the structures. Is it a compound? Is it complex? Is it simple or compound and complex? And as you answer these questions, it's kind of like a flow chart. If yes, do this. If no, go here. And then this blank page is for your diagram. And so this is where you're going to draw out the diagram of the sentence, which is why you have so much space. And there's no lines because it's going to change with every sentence. How do you know what sentence to use? In your, let's go to student. The student guide, they have, once you get past your charts, they have all the charts in the beginning, and they're alphabetical. You have editing exercises. Let me zoom back out. And editing exercises are verses that have mistakes in them. And you're going to go through and correct them. So the student will do a sentence at a time and correct them. And so this is over a whole week for week 1. So you break this up into days and just have them do a sentence a day. Over here, they have the corrected version. And it has a dotted line. So the thought is that you would hand them this and have it folded so that they can't see the answers and have them correct. And then when you go to review it, then you open this up and you look at what it should be. So this is another thing they don't tell you specifically. This is what you have to do. I think that's why I'm doing this overview with you, is to kind of show you, what all the pieces are. Now, the sentences are in the solutions manual, the teacher's guide. You have your completed charts, and then you have your editing exercises where they not only show you the corrected, but they highlight what was corrected. So let's go through that. Then they have the sentences. So each week you have multiple sentences. Week 1 and 2 don't have sentences because they're not even introducing this until week 3. So on week 3, you have one sentence to do. Okay, it's 2 words, and this is how you would diagram it. So this is your answer sheet for the analytical task sheet. So you're having them work it on either a blank or on this trivium. And here's your example and your answer. Then week 4, you have 5 sentences. Okay, so week 3, they have 1 sentence. Week 4, they jump off into 5 sentences. However, they're just 1 word here, 1 word here, 1 word here, 2 words, 2 words, 2 words. So it is a very gentle progression. Then week 5, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you should have 5 sentences for every week going forward. And so you would have them basically do a sentence per day on the analytical task sheet. And this is where you get your sentences. What else? Throughout the whole thing, they do get harder. You can see here's the last week, week 23, week before last. Let's see, do we have them than 24. Yeah, so here's the last week of the program, and they're much longer and more complex. And you can see how they're broken out. So you start out very gentle, you build throughout the year, and get harder as you go along. Let me see if the sentences are in here as well. No, but they have the full-blown analytical task sheet blank in here. So it's the same thing that is on this, but not laminated. So you could make copies of this and laminate it, or make copies of it every day for doing your sentences. But I was just looking in here to see if they had the sentences themselves, and I think they're just in the solutions manual. So this is where you get your sentences. Now, they do have, in case you're going through and your child is below this level and you need something even easier, they have downloadable sentences that are simpler, I can't remember the word that they called it, but a more simple, basic version of the sentences for a child that is not at the minimum level. So if your child's struggling, you can scale this down. They also have an advanced list of sentences that you can download from their website that are more complex. So if you need to challenge your student, you can do that. However, these are the same sentences you'll be doing every single year. Does that make sense? So once you've gone through it once, you kind of get the layout and the feel for it. But I've talked to a lot of different parents, and their first year, there's so many moving parts that they're not sure what they're supposed to be doing to make the best use of it at home. And so that's why I felt like I wanted to come on and show you a little bit more of how it works so that you could be more effective at home. The last part that I wanted to show is a tool that I found online to kind of condense all of this information and make it a more streamlined for you. And I'm not affiliated with this, so I just use it as a good tool for us, and it's been working, and I want to share it with you. Okay. This is My Essentials Notebook. This is a downloadable tool that you can get from Etsy, and I will link the direct link to it down in the description. But this is made by an Essentials mom who put everything that you need for essentials together in a daily workbook style so that you're not confused on what you need to do every day at home for essentials. Now, there's 2 different downloads. There's one for each semester. And I believe she's going to make them for each cycle. I'm not sure. Right now, she just has cycle 1 up there. However, I will tell you, it is possible to just buy 1 copy and use it for 3 years, because the information doesn't change except for the IEW writing portion, and I'll show you what that is. So this is the second semester. First semester I had bound in another book, and I chose to make my own tabs, although you could buy tabs and put them in dividers for each week, whatever you want to do. But I bound this myself. I used my Happy Planner punch and used this, and I laminated it myself. You can obviously just take it to Office Depot and have them do it for you. You can stick it in a binder, whatever you want to do. But this is the structure. So it puts your basic concepts that you're covering for the week up here at the top, and then it breaks you down into the activities that you're going to do every day. You can hear my doggy playing with his toy in the background. I'm sorry about the squeaking. Okay, so if I'm using this with a first year student, so he's 9 or in that 4th grade level, I'm only going to pay attention to this Tour 1 section. Let me zoom in. Okay, so this section right here is geared towards that first year student. Okay, and this is a checklist of everything you need to do. So you can ignore the other 2 tours because they don't apply to you in whatever year you're in. So if I have a first year student, all I'm looking at is this on day 1. And it tells me every day they need to be doing these things. EEL flashcards, which I'll show you in a minute, the IEW vocabulary, charts, whichever chart are assigned for that year. And so that comes directly out of your EEL, which she's already put in here for you. Then you're going to check off, have you studied your definitions of these 2 things? Have you done your editing and which verse you need to do? So for instance, let me pull to my editing sheet. I went ahead and put the editing exercise sheet from my student manual directly in here. So as I'm working through this workbook, I say this is what we need to do for week 1, and boom, there it is. So I don't have to go looking for it. I don't have to gather it from somewhere. It's already done in the beginning. This does not come in the PDF. So when I printed it, I took all of these and I put them into the appropriate week so that I would have it associated. Okay. Now, I don't have to do all of the verses. So this says for week 13, you do verse 6. So you can't see that because I've written over it, but it's a 6 right there. There's 10, there's 12. So she's got this broken down based on the level of the child. So if you're in first year, you're only going to do verse 6. If you're in second or third year, you're going to do 6 and 7 the first day. The second day, you're going to go to verse 7, or on this one, you're going to go 8 and 9. So they're scaled up for you. And you can see this one here. Okay, so you just look at the level that you're on. And then I went ahead for my child and wrote day 1, you do this. Then I wrote day 2 on 8 because that's where he starts. And it goes all the way down to day 3. Now, it looks like we skipped this week, so we didn't actually do the work, but I just wanted to show you how I did that so that it made sense. I'm going to do this again next year. However, what I'm going to do is make 4 copies of this, and I'm going to put them in and highlight. This is the one you do now. When we get to day 2, I'm going to have another sheet that has the verse for day 2 on it. So he doesn't have to flip back and forth. He can just go straight through page to page and do what he needs to do. Okay, so let's go back to our checklist. It's got ATS, which is analytical task sheet, and it's got the sentence that you're doing. So what I did is I also have a copy of the analytical task sheet here with the sentence already on it. And this I actually downloaded from CC Connected, and it's from Sandra Homemaker. So if you wanted to do that, you can do that, and it has the weeks. And you put 1 sentence a day. So I put 1 on day 1. I put 1 on day 2. I put 1 after day 3. So he can work through this and know what he's doing every day. It's just really, put together in one spot and makes your job so easy. Then you're going to do spelling list A, and look at this. Spelling list built right in. She went ahead and put those spelling lists right there for you. So based on your tour, it's going to say what spelling list. So like I was saying, if you're first year, you do A. If you're second year, you're going to do list B. So we always did B. Okay. Then you have IEW lesson, whatever lesson is slated for that week.
And that's in a different book, but at least they list it for you to check off that yes, we've done it. So this is kind of your management console for how you get through the week for and doing all the things for essentials. Now, let's go through the actual worksheets. So here we have day 1. This is your new spelling list. You write those. You write some sentences. On day 1, you also write the spelling rule, the punctuation rule, and the homophones. Some sentences with your homophones in it. Then, like I said, I added in the analytical task sheet and the editing exercise. Then, also on day 1, they're wanting you to learn the definitions of a complex sentence and a phrase. So you write those. Then we're on day 2. They're writing their spelling words, and this time she gave them colors of the rainbow, so that it's a little something a little different. So they write their words again. Then again, I put in my analytical task sheet. Then day 2, we've got our spelling rules, punctuation, homophones. Then we have definitions, clause, and independent clause. Day 3, we've got a preview. So you write the word, you dictate the words and have them write it. So it's like a pre-test. And then you color for all of the ones that you get right. You also copy the rules again. Here I've got analytical task sheet. Then day 3, definitions, copy. Day 4, you are writing on flashcards. So you're going to write all of these on a flashcard and make your own flashcards. Remember in the sheet you had EEL flashcards? You're making them each week and you're going to review them every day. Okay? So here's where we're actually creating our flashcards in the beginning. Then we have our test. So we're going to do a spelling test, and then they're going to write corrections, and then they have a test on the spelling rules, the punctuation rule, and the homophones. Then you're on week 2. So that is basically, in a nutshell, what this whole workbook does. It's the same thing, all customized with all the information from here in workbook form. Obviously, you don't have your directions and all that. You still have to go through your EE textbook for that to teach them the subject matter and to review that kind of thing. But the definitions, the spelling, it is all built into this workbook. And then if you add in your editing exercise and your analytical task sheets, you're all set. So I felt this was a huge help to me to not have to be scrambling every week. What are we doing this week? How do we organize this? It was all set up and done for me. Now, I will say she has this labeled as Cycle 1, so I'm assuming she's going to come out with Cycle 2 and 3 of the workbook. However, I will tell you the only thing different is the IEW vocabulary, because this is based on the IEW book, and it changes every year that you do it with each cycle. However, there is no sheet that she's built in here to practice the IEW vocabulary. So if you're watching Classical Resource Mom, that's the lady that makes this, maybe you want to add in a sheet to practice the vocabulary, but that's the only thing that changes with each cycle. So you could reprint this every year and keep using it and just ignore this because it's not even used in the workbook anyway. So I hope that helps. I will leave the link to Classical Resource Mom down below on where you can get this. I'm not affiliated with her. I don't get a portion of the proceeds or anything like that. I hope that this benefits you, and thanks for listening. I will have another video on IEW, and we'll talk about how that works, and I hope that I will see you in that video. One thing I wanted to add to this video is we downloaded some EEL flashcards. So remember I told you in this workbook here, she has you making flashcards. If you have CC Connected, there is a file that you can download with EEL flashcards. And then you can print them, cut them, and laminate them yourself if you want. They ended up being 2 rings worth of this. So, and if you see the little dots on here, what we do is the first time he reads through these, I don't expect him to know them all. He's going to get oriented with them. He's going to start learning them, right? So the first time he reads through, he marked them with green. And that was because he didn't get through them all in one day, and he needed to know where he left off. So the ones he did, he marked in green. When he finished the whole thing, they all had green marks on them. So then we went to a pink marker. He could have wiped them all clean and used the same color again, but we went to pink. And so he would mark the ones he did, and then the ones that didn't have pink, that's where he started up the next day. So once they were all covered in pink, then he went to orange. So that's just how we do and they're wet erase, so they don't wipe off unless you have a wet wipe. So they wouldn't come off before the next time he was to use them. So that's how we do our flashcards and how he keeps track of what he's covered so far. As he starts getting to know them, then I will be doing them with him and asking him for a definition of what they are. Once again, this was a resource that I downloaded from CC Connected, and it's called Essentials Flashcards, I think. So if you just go to Essentials in CC Connected and search for flashcards, you should have something that pops up. There you go. In case you don't want your child writing their own flashcards and you'd rather do this, then that's there for you. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.